Hello, everybody. This is your host, Angie, from Religion to Woohoo. And I wanted to get on today and share a little about the process of spiritual awakening and reprogramming your mind and healing and all the stuff. I also am in a place right now where I'm really diving deep and seeking direction on what it is that I'm supposed to be offering in my healing practice. And I just want to give a heads up that there might be a point where I'm starting to feel some intuitive hits come in me that I am supposed to kind of revamp this podcast and rename it. I think I'll probably keep the from religion to woohoo is probably a subtitle, but I'm really feeling like my spirit is leading me to something else. So I am going to dive in and meditate on that and really seek that out before I make any choices or decisions, because I want to make sure I am really in tune with my spirit before I do anything. But I am feeling as if some of the, I don't know, I do life coaching and I do healing work. But the calling, I guess you would call it, is to really help people to heal and embrace their, shadow work in some way, and to move forward, releasing old and stepping into new mindset. And those who follow me have probably listened to the last few podcast episodes where I've talked a lot about my own healing and this process that I'm going through, where there's just a really deep layer of trauma coming out right now. I was not expecting to go through this. I was not expecting to have this really dark night of the soul moment in my life, because I really felt like I had made it through a lot. I was feeling really good for a while. So I wanted to, like always, I'm just 100% honest with y'all, and I hope that's okay. If you want to complain, please let me know. But I want to talk about this process of letting go and healing and moving on to the next part of your life. And I see a lot of, I just like everybody, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on all the socials. And gosh, I think about back in the day when I was a kid and a teenager. I did not get my first cell phone, you guys, until I was 22 or 23. And then that was oh gosh, I don't even remember what kind of phone it was. It was just this tiny phone. And I didn't even know how to use it. I didn't even know there was a thing called text messaging until I was in my 30s. Not gonna lie. And so it's just funny how things shift and change in the world, and how you start to do things differently. Because back in the day, the cool thing was having AOL and Messenger, Hotmail Messenger. I remember messaging my friends, and then there was MySpace I think I was in my 30s when that, late 20s, I know for sure. Things just shift and change. And what is interesting in our growth is we just move through it. It's just the waves come and we just kind of ride, and we're okay. And for a minute, some people are this is stupid. I don't like this. I don't want to. Facebook's dumb. And, I honestly, I don't even remember when Facebook came out, because I probably was still on MySpace. I don't even know. But I rode the wave. I moved with it, and now I'm in the wave. And so it's just kind of we're all in this, and we don't even really know how we got into it. But that's how life is, you guys. And if we're not embracing the movement and the change of the times and how things flow in our life, then we get stuck in these moments, and we're looking around and we're like, well, who does she think she is? Or who does he think he is? You know, they think they've, you know, grown and made it to this point, or they understand things. And we become very like judgmental and degrading towards other people's growth because we're not embracing our own. And that's where shadow work comes from. And that's where we go into the shadow work. So for me, in 2016, I would say closer to 2014 is when I started to feel this like inner turning of like uneasiness of what I believed. Like, I think I always had that in some aspect, but I didn't really pay attention. But I started to feel this like change come up inside of me. And I could have either pushed that away or just rode with it. But what happened was between 2014 and 2016, I wrote about this in my book 100%. Still remember that day. Remember how I felt. I had a spiritual awakening. I didn't know that's what I had, but I had one. And I heard an audible voice come to me and talk to me. And if you want to hear more about that, I think I shared that in like one of my very first episode. I don't remember which one, but you can go back and listen to that one. But I had an audible spiritual awakening. And in my 20s, I would say probably 25, 26, 27. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think actually it's 26. I had a strange experience where I felt actual electricity come down through my body. I wrote about this in my book too. And I always have kind of wondered if that was like my Kundalini experience, like having this like shift in my energy kind of. And I will also tell you this really, really weird thing I've never told anybody. I cannot believe I'm going to tell you this on a podcast. Is either some people are going to be like, that woman is fucking psycho, or others are going to be like, whoa, that's amazing. When my mom was pregnant with me, I've heard this story many times. My dad has confirmed it. My mom has confirmed it. When my mom was pregnant with me, they were driving somewhere, like they were driving home together, and a bright light showed up in the sky. I don't know if it was UFO, you guys. I don't know what it was. But a bright light was shining down on the car and followed them all the way home. And from the story I've heard, they were kind of freaking out and calling a news station and asking like where this light was and if anybody else saw it, and nobody else saw it. But this light had came down on them and then the house. And according to what my dad's not alive anymore, so I can't really talk to him about this, but according to the story, they went outside in the backyard and they actually saw this light. So I don't know if it had anything to do with me, them, I don't know. But I've had these strange experiences in my life where I'm like, was that part of like pushing me into why I came onto the earth? And, you know, I don't share these things to be like, oh, I'm so awesome, because really it's kind of really fucking weird, to be honest. But these things have happened to me in my life, and this is what I'm learning in the process. From 2016 until now, it's, you know, we're almost to the end of 2022. So 7 years. I have gone through a huge roller coaster of change. 2016, I felt the urge to reconcile with my dad. I hadn't been talked to him. Then I started feeling the urge to quit my job. Then I started feeling the urge to quit my church. Then everything in my life just shifted. And so in 2017, I finally took the leaps. I cried a lot because it was so scary. I quit my job. I quit my church. I reconciled with my dad. I did all this at once, and it was overwhelming, and I was just like, what is happening? However, this was the roller coaster. This is the wave that was coming in my life, and I had a choice to either stay where I was or to move with it. And for some reason, I chose to move with it. So that all happened in 2016, 2017. 2017, 2018, I start running into a guy that had raped me as a teenager. Dark night of the soul, start dealing with that. Holy crap, I've never talked about this, never dealt with it, never faced it, never did anything. I told two people. I think I told two people that it happened. Then that process led into the next part of another dark night of the soul, where I started realizing that I needed to heal from trauma from childhood. So I started going to therapy, I believe in 2000. Well, I know I tried to go in 2017, but I did not like that therapist. I went like 3 times. I'm like, no. And then I went to another therapist, and she was kind of cool, but I was like, I felt like I was just like, I didn't really feel like she was at the place that where she could help me. And then I found another one I stuck with for a couple years and started doing EMDR, and that was really helpful for me. However, I got to the point where I was like, I feel like I've come this far, but there's more work I need to do. So I found another therapist who I'm with now. And, but I share all this because in this process of deconstructing from religion, letting go of all these old things, this old mindset, these beliefs I had, and moving into the new, I've had to embrace the really hard stuff. And what happens sometimes, and I did this up until that moment, and I had that spiritual awakening, we shove all that stuff down inside of us, and we don't even know it, but we're projecting it out. We're projecting it out onto other people. And so we're creating this atmosphere where we want somebody else to fulfill our needs or to make us feel good about ourselves, instead of really digging in, doing some soul work for ourselves, and then finding a way to feel good about ourselves on our own. Because when we start to feel good about ourselves, we can embrace the relationships around us better, and then they flow easier. Just like flowing with the changes of time, we need to learn to flow and not stop putting our projections and our needs on other people around us. And so I went through these healing phases, and there were times that I just felt amazing. Like, I will say 2020 sucked. Okay, so that's when I lost my job. I lost my dad. I was doing foster care. I was, all this stuff. It was so freaking hard. I worked really, really, really hard to heal through that. I dug in deeper than I ever have in my life, and I let myself feel all the freaking hard emotions. And so I moved through that phase. I felt really good in 2021. I felt like I was like embracing my healing. I was doing things. I was setting boundaries. I was seeking out the support I needed. I was moving forward. And there was still a lot of stuff. I was doing a lot of shadow work still. I was still moving through a lot of stuff. However, I felt good. And I started to feel these inner callings in myself to really embrace what I was made to do in the world. And that's when I got certified in Reiki, and then mindfulness and meditation, and then I got certified as a global sisterhood facilitator, and then I hired a life coach, and then I got my sound healing certificate. So I did all this stuff. And you guys, I worked in mental health since I was like 19. I've been in and out of like different parts of mental health since I was very young. So I worked in a youth group a lot when I was in my early 20s, because I thought I was going to be a youth minister. And then I went into like working with adults with like MR and like some like mental disabilities. And then I took that into doing one-on-one work with kids. And then I went into case management, and then I worked in substance abuse, and then I worked in transitioning teenagers into adulthood, and then I worked in a psychiatric facility for teenage girls that like had to be in residential for like months, like they came and lived there. And then now I'm working with like elderly. So I've been all over the place, and I have all this insight knowledge on like the outside world. But what is coming to my understanding is, if I really truly want to be the healer that I desire to be, I've got to embrace my own freaking shadow. And it's hard to do that because especially if you come from religion, you want to push that part away from you because it's like shine the light on the darkness and expel the darkness and make the darkness go away. And there is no darkness and light. And that is all 100% true, you guys. However, if you don't almost like take that part, that shadow part of you, and embrace it and hold it and hug it, because those parts, that shadow part of you is usually your inner child or your inner teenager or a PTSD symptom or an anxiety or whatever it is that comes up for you. It is part of who you are. And the more you push it away thinking, oh, I'll just pray it away or I'll just shine a light on it, the more that gets shoved down inside of you. And you can put light around darkness all you want. But when you take the light away, that dark is still going to be there. So last night, I've been, I'm pretty sure I shared this in my last episode, but I've been having, out of the blue, flashbacks of childhood trauma, mostly sexual abuse. And here's the deal. Like, there's two different kinds of flashback. There is a visual flashback, and then there's a body flashback. And I didn't know about the body flashbacks until I started having them. And then I did research and I started to understand, wow, this is a real thing. I will tell you that those visual flashbacks suck and they're hard. But the body ones, holy crap. I would say I would probably rather have a visual because it's quick and in and out. And it takes me a moment to like reacclimate myself, but these body ones, they'll last for days. And I don't know how to get out of it sometime. It's just like, I finally was able to, like, I had to email my therapist about how it felt because I could not actually verbalize it to her. So, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, do some research. Look up on YouTube, like type in body flashbacks and sexual abuse body flashbacks. And that is what it is. It sucks. And so I am in this place of these coming up for me, and I did not expect it because I really was starting to feel like, okay, maybe I've made progress. Maybe I've got to the place where I'm free of a lot of this. But what I'm learning is I'm on that wave. I'm on a roller coaster where I made it up the hill and I was like, oh gosh, thank you. I made it. I overcame this. But the thing is I can stay there and like just pretend everything is wonderful all the time. But there's always going to be something else that I can dive back into. So if I release it, I allow that part of my life to be used. I actually have to release it into the universe. And that means I go back down the roller coaster. I fly back down and there's another hill that will come. And we don't know what is up the next hill. We don't know what we're going to have to face up that next hill. However, we can't get stuck in the process because then we don't really grow. So last night I cried and I laid on my floor and I bawled, and I need to clean up my Kleenexes, but it felt so good, but it was so hard. Like, I still feel very tired this morning. I still feel like I need to do more of that releasing. But without those moments, like, you get stuck. And I was feeling so stuck. And so finally, I'm like, you know what? Damn it, I'm going to go fucking release this. And my therapist has been trying to tell me to do this for weeks. And I just hadn't been able to. So I had to be kind to myself. So I was finally ready last night. And like I said, I have not released it all. I feel a lot that is still needing to come out. But that is the shadow work. That's the part of the growth that people want to skip. And you can't skip the shadow work in your healing. You can't skip the shadow work in your deconstruction. Because if you skip that, you get stuck where you are and you don't really grow. And you may think that you're at a place and you may want to be there. And like, I actually see a lot of people like really diving into their coaching business and wanting to be healers and wanting to serve people, which is awesome. I love it. However, they have not embraced their shadow work. They have not done the deep work also. So like I tell the people in my 6-week course that I work with, like, I'm doing this with you guys. Like, I am helping to guide you because I might have done some of this stuff before prior to you, because some of them haven't ever even touched some of this, but I'm still doing it, and I will never stop doing it. And that's one thing I love about my therapist is she admits, like, I'm still healing. And that just makes me feel like, thank you for being real. Like, it's just, like, I basically want to cry right now, because, like, it's hard to find those authentic people in this world that understand that healing is not linear. It's an up and down process, and you have to keep going back. Sometimes it's the same thing over and over and over until you release it. And the thing is you may release it, and that little part might be a little teeny tiny dark spot in your body. It may pop up again, but you know how to handle it. And it's like, oh, no, we dealt with this. You can calm down, kind of a thing. So something really amazing happened last night. I was meditating, and I was just asking the universe, like, what do I do? How do I release this? Like, I feel stuck. And this is before I really, like, dove into my, like, crying and sobbing and screaming and cussing kind of phase where I was on the floor. So leading up to that moment, this is where I was. I was meditating, and I started to feel darkness in me. Like, I felt the darkness. And as I was asking the universe, like, what is this darkness? How do I get this out? How do I expose this? What was really cool is I'm going to write this in my second book. I started to feel all this darkness. Literally, I felt it start to come off my body. But it wasn't like lifting. It was like fragments of little teeny tiny dots of light intermingling into the darkness and pulling it off of me. And I had this epiphany in that moment that all the darkness that I had in me, or I was holding on to, or I was wanting to release, was actually light. There was actually light in that darkness. I just was too focused and foggy in looking at the darkness of the light that I missed, and I did not see the actual specks of light in the darkness. There's always light. There's always light. So when you're in this moment of embracing these really hard, dark moments, remind yourself, I just need to adjust the way I see this and think about this so I can move through it. And yes, you need to take a moment to actually see the darkness. You need to know what it's about, because if you don't, that becomes even more dense and it begins to swallow you up. But when you start to allow that process and then you release it, which I will always teach meditation, I'm sure there's many other things that you can do. But when you embrace that meditation and you embrace that moment of sitting in the darkness in silence, letting yourself really feel it, and then refocusing and allowing it to be released and healed, you will find that light in it. There's always light. There is always light to be found. You just have to take the time to seek it out. Oh man, that was a lot. So this is getting long, and I want to encourage you guys to reach out if you are in this phase at all. Please let me help you. I want to help you guys. And like I said, I'm doing it too. So I am going to wish you guys all the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. Please love on yourself today. I send you all the universal love that there is. Namaste.